this is exactly what we titled this video around, which is the White House is reportedly preparing an executive order on crypto. And essentially here it says, this is designed to look historically at digital assets and develop a new set of policies that give coherency to what the government is trying to do in this space. The next quote I'll pull out from another article regarding this. It says here, the Biden administration is preparing to release an executive action that will task federal agency with regulating digital assets such as Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies as a matter of national security. So with that being said, I'd like to ask you, Jebb, what are your thoughts on do you think this is posturing? Do you think, what do you think this means for the greater space at large? Or what do you really think their intention is here? And do you think this is going to fall in the hands of other agencies? Or do you think maybe there's a chance they're going to come up with a separate agency that entirely to regulate this digital space?
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly what needs to happen. I don't know if that's what's going to happen. We need to see our own agency that regulates crypto. And a lot of people in crypto, like the crypto anarchists, are going to say, oh, Jebb says there needs to be a regulatory body around crypto. Yeah, there actually does. The thing is, regulation is coming. We have to understand that. There is no question that regulation is coming. It's a $2 trillion market. It's going to be a $100 trillion market in today's dollars in 20 years from now. There's going to be regulation. What we need to see is we need to see a healthy regulation that is actually going to help this space to thrive. There's nothing wrong with guardrails, but there is something wrong with tyranny. I was actually watching the interview that Crypto Capital Venture Dan, a good friend of mine, did with Charles Hoskinson yesterday, and Charles was talking a lot about how Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, especially DeFi, you can actually go into something called GovTech, government tech, and this is something Cardano's working on a lot, to help put in infrastructure and different tools and governance bodies so that you can hold the government accountable and fine the government if they're doing something wrong. So I encourage you, go watch that interview that Crypto Capital Venture did with Charles Hoskinson. Talks about probably about 50, 60 minutes into it. There is going to be government regulation and oversight of crypto, but one of the cool things people don't realize is that cryptocurrency can actually help us to have regulation and oversight of the government. That's something that we can do. So it's not a bad thing that regulation is coming. What could be bad is the way in which regulation is done. And the thing that is very interesting about that article and that release, and again, as we've said, I want to be the first one to tell you it is an anonymous source. I hate anonymous sources, but this is what we have to go off of right now. And we did always know this was coming, so I do believe that this is true. Essentially, what's being said is that Bitcoin is a matter of national security, and the undertone there is that it's a national security threat. I do believe, funnily enough, that Bitcoin is a threat to the national, not security, but hegemony. I think that what we see right now is that the U.S. government has absolute authoritarian control over our currency, and that gives them control over any part of the economy that they desire, because money is the most important tool to keep the government to keep the economy going around, other than the public unity of the culture, and they also have control of that too. So the fact is, go ahead.
Let me ask you a question about that though. So one of the things that's bouncing around my brain when I'm trying to consider this also is I'm wondering if somebody like Janet Yellen or other anonymous sources within the government are even trying to find anything they can to basically spark the interest or action in terms of President Biden or anybody, any regulatory body in the U.S. government. And because they haven't been able to really get something within regulation to squash crypto, potentially maybe they're even now trying to say, okay, they're not listening, they're not getting the regulation we want, so we can squash Bitcoin and crypto. So let's use the hot button word, the target word to President Biden, that this is national security. So then now that they can get some action to further compress the crypto market.
I totally agree with you. The hot button word that gets the government to do anything that they want the rest of the government to do has been the word national security ever since 9/11. That's what we do, is we say, okay, it's a matter of national security, so we need to go and fix it. And I'm not saying that there aren't matters of national security. There absolutely are. Bitcoin is not a matter of national security. It is a matter of the public security against a tyrannical government, which is the direction we're going in. Now, we don't get political that much on this channel, but you guys do know, and I'm perfectly comfortable saying this on camera, I am a more libertarian guy. I don't like government overreach, and that's what cryptocurrency was designed to do, is to help us with people having sovereignty over our finances. So yes, I do absolutely agree that whoever is talking this way is trying to get things stirred up so that it becomes a conversation in cryptocurrency. And also with the, there's always turmoil on Capitol Hill. I'm not even commenting on that. But with the current political landscape, it wouldn't be surprising to see, the Congress and the President and the White House trying to find a common enemy that they can unite their parties against. And if they do that with cryptocurrency, then cryptocurrency could see some regulation come. Now, here's the thing. I am not worried about this. I'm really not. This is not anywhere near the top of the list of issues that the current administration is dealing with. And so I don't think we're going to have some kind of massive government overreach, a ton of regulation. This is not something that we should FUD out about. This is not something that's really scaring me all that much. In fact, this is not something that's even been confirmed yet. But we did know that regulation is coming. And the final thing I want to say is that the timing of this is very interesting. It's extremely interesting because, you know, you don't have to actually say anything is happening and make any confirmations, and you can still manipulate the price. So, Tim, I want to ask you, do you think the timing on this is suspect?
That's what I was going to chime in. First and foremost, there's two things that are suspect. One of them is the timing, and I'll get to that here in just a second. But what's even more suspect to me is the source. The White House has not commented on this. It is a source close to the White House. So that's the first thing. We have to take a deep breath, step back and take a deep breath. Nothing has happened. In fact, even that source said a few weeks from now, they're going to have an executive order. And then they're going to have an executive order, not to actually take action, but to get other agencies to start discussing this stuff. I have lots of opinions there, but I want to start with the coincidences. One, it is the source. I'm looking at that a little fishy. The second is the timing. And the reason I say it's the timing is this is right on the back of the Fed announcements, which also was big. And I know this is older news. Like, we've actually been hearing these rumors for a while. So why raise up a stink again yesterday? Why yesterday? And for anyone who says that technical analysis is not reliable right now, I want to fight that a little bit, but give you one thing. If you are looking at nothing but technical analysis, I absolutely agree. You're probably not going to get a full picture. But if you're looking at nothing but the news and not looking at those news headlines and then going back and looking at the charts, you're also going to get wrecked because we are in a season of manipulation. And what happens in manipulation is that news headlines are put out at strategic times to FUD people out of the market or FOMO people into the market. On the back of the Fed announcement, putting an article that gives us no new information, that just stirs up something with a new headline saying national security, it falls under that line of funny timing for manipulation. This is going to scare a lot of people, despite the fact that we actually have no idea what the details of the story are, but it makes people scared. That's what the composite man, if you're listening to Wyckoff's rules, that's what the composite man wants to do at all times. I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. Watch what happens between headlines that are factual or rumors. Rumored bearish articles like this one are usually put semi-close to the bottom to shake out the weak hands so that institutional money can come in and get the supply at a low rate. When we start getting to the top of markets or when it's time for the price to reverse, watch for rumors or opinion articles to be very bullish. This will make people FOMO into the market and buy, and then the institutions sell, take their profit, and wait for the price to come back down. I'm of the opinion that we need to wait a couple of weeks and actually wait for the official executive order, which doesn't announce anything. It just says, hey, executive order, all of the agencies responsible for this, let's get together and let's start deciding what we want to do. Again, I'll comment on that later if we get back to it. But let's wait for that before we actually start doing anything. To me, I actually see this as a bullish sign.
Yeah.
You know, what's quite funny about all this is that it's an anonymous source, followed by it may happen in a few weeks, and then once that may happen, then it would still be timeout before anything happens. So it's in a way,
like the Fed. It sounds like the Fed. It's like, oh, it might happen in March. You know, we might change. We might decide to start changing things. Then we might begin to start doing a thing in March, and then in 50 years we'll try. It's possible. It's possible is all I'm saying. Yeah. Smay, I want to hear you chime in on this. What is your stance on regulation? Do you think in 10 years we're going to see a regulatory landscape that is actually conducive to the growth of this industry, or do you think that the government is going to get so scared of Bitcoin having, being a threat to the U.S. dollar that they're going to try and regulate it into oblivion?
Well, Jebb, I'd like to say I too share your political beliefs. Honestly, guys, the word regulation is such a dirty, nasty word. I hate it. It's like when you hear it going, it's like the word moist. You're like, oh gosh, regulation. But guys, in this case, as much as I hate regulation and the idea of it, this is one of those opportunities, and I talked with Tim about it the other day. I'll call back to a conversation I had. I don't know if I said it on stream or I said it to Tim or something like that, but I firmly believe that 2022 will be the year of regulatory clarity. This is going to be the year we start to find out the government's stance on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. But anyways, what I was saying was this is really an opportunity, right? that a lot of institutions that aren't already in Bitcoin are going to hear what they need to hear to feel comfortable finally investing in the asset. Because ultimately right now, as much as we love the decentralized nature of Bitcoin and not that that's going away, but we love the Wild West nature of there's no regulation and we can really do whatever we want. A lot of institutions don't like that because it doesn't make them feel safe, So there's a lot of money on the sideline waiting for something clear, and they know, what that's going to look like jumping into it. So I think ultimately we're going to see what this can end up being is a positive effect for increasing the development of the space and bringing a lot more money into the space, depending on what that regulation looks like, obviously. If it becomes too much of a disadvantage, then I think it's one of those things that, like, hey, honestly, and this is kind of one of those things. Is like, unfortunately, hey, if they come bringing down the hammer on cryptocurrency, the thing is, the technology they really can't control.
Yep.
No matter what, they can't actually they can't literally take control of the technology, right? So, at the end of the day, there's going to be a point where if they try to do anything, if they try to, and they know this, if they try to come hard on it, right? It's going to end up being something that it's just not going to work out for them, and there's going to be a lot of pushback, and people are going to do it anyways. So it's one of those things. I think in the future, what we're going to see in the next 10, 15 years of regulation is going to be something that brings it up to the standard of, the rest of the financial space, and makes it safer for institutions to invest in. But I don't think it's going to be anything that's going to radically shift because they know there will be pushback if they try to take it any further.
It is way too big to completely stop now. Tim, you want to make a final point?
Yeah, well, carrying on with what Smay's saying, and this is part of the conversation him and I were having. Do you guys remember a couple months ago where, what's the name of the Coinbase CEO?
Brian Armstrong.
Brian Armstrong. So the SEC started to go after Brian Armstrong for a second, and accuse him of different things. And I remember this was really big because he was saying, listen, there's no rules. You guys have not given me anything. I will more than gladly follow everything you put in my place, but you've never given me any guidelines. It's the same thing with like playing a sport with no rules. Who wants to play a sport or a competition and not know clearly what the rules of the game are? How do you know if you win or lose? How do you know if you're in violation or if you're legal? I think that there's a lot of institutional money that are waiting for rules to be put in place. And as much as I love that take, it's like the word moist. Regulation is a really dirty, nasty word, and none of us want it, but it is inevitable, and it's going to come.
I shouldn't have said that.
And I love it. I'm so glad you said it.
Like
I think that there's actually a lot of institutional money that is like sitting on the sideline saying, I want to play, I just don't know how yet. Tell me how to play, and then I'll come.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I think that's a really good point, guys, is that regulation is a good or a bad thing depending on how it is implemented. I'm really curious to see what the executive branch is going to try and do here because they obviously are scared of this. And by the way, I am fully aware that the Federal Reserve is not a government entity. It was set up to be some kind of blend of public and private, and it was a complete and total failure. But yeah, the fact of the matter is that this regulation is going to be very interesting. It's going to have a lot of implications, but it will allow for businesses to actually grow. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. If you enjoyed this video, you should definitely consider subscribing because we're trying to help you become financially free in these cryptocurrency markets. And also consider following us on Twitter @CryptoJebb for more updates on the price of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. Peace.